We're running slightly behind. It's on me. I forgot that I needed to do a proposal. It's finished, turned in, delivered. Reminder
Wedding
for
proposal.
wedding proposal for everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, give us 5 stars on Spotify. I saw one person did that. I don't know who it was. Shout out to them, whoever did it. And anything else that you need to do, everything's down in the description below. Sounds like I didn't text you. You didn't text me, but it sounds like we were on the same page. We both have 4 teams prepared for today.
Yeah, we're at the point where it's like getting very hard to predict who is going to go where with some of these teams, like in the draft portion of it.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know, like the first 10, it's kind of like, all right, you can pretty much knock some of that out with like 2 to 3 quarterbacks. And then it's like like a lot of the best players. Not to say that the rest of the draft doesn't have good players in it too, but it feels way more difficult to predict the middle back half of the draft than anything else.
For sure. This is the championship rounds. This is where I beat Andrew every single year when we do our mock draft competition. So I will be dialed in.
This is the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's the fourth quarter. Before we get into anything, in 2012, Penn State was hit with sanctions. I'm just kidding. The first team that we're going to be hitting today are the Indianapolis Colts. Funny enough, 2 of these teams we actually dropped videos on last week, the Colts and the Bengals. So we're not going to be ultra repetitive, but those, like the Colts video from last week about Anthony Richardson, will be in the description below. The Indianapolis Colts, 8-9, 4th straight year of missing the playoffs. We can just glance over it real quick because we did just do a big episode on it, but I feel like we have to just mention real quick about the quarterback issues with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, they signed Daniel Jones to a 1-year, $14 million deal with $13.15 million guaranteed, $6 million signing bonus, $7.15 million base salary, max value of $17.7 million. Awful lot of money for a guy with multiple injuries and just might not be very good.
My quick question for you right off the rip. Is this a move for Anthony Richardson to have a layup to win the job during camp? Or was this a move to edge him out as being a starter? How do you perceive this Daniel Jones signing?
Well, if I'm internal and external, I guess, I'm hoping that this is the move that finally forces Anthony Richardson to get his shit together and take control of this offense. I can't really imagine a scenario where a lot of people in that building would want Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback going into the 2025 season. So I'm looking at it as a let's light a fire under Anthony Richardson's ass, bring in a guy that is relatively young, that has played a handful of football games in the NFL, that's been a starting quarterback, and let's hope that, like I said, he can get locked in.
So you do perceive it as a confidence building move for Daniel Jones, not a move to edge him out as a starter, it sounds like.
As a guy that does not think Daniel Jones is a good NFL quarterback, yes.
Okay. I respect that. I think so too. I talked to Andrew about it, and Andrew was like, no, he's going to be their starter next year, like pretty blindly. I just feel like Daniel Jones has had ups and downs as a starter, tons of injuries. I feel like this is a way to be like, go and win this job and roll in with some confidence into the season. But at this
even
point,
though like
with Daniel Jones, with Anthony Richardson, like he's shaky. Like he's a shaky guy.
He is, but I'm countering my own thought process because we have talked about this. It seems like the Colts also just hate Anthony Richardson at this point. So maybe they are like, maybe they do want Daniel Jones to start. And if you get Daniel Jones to start, like, I really don't think you're getting much like, I don't really think you're getting anything better than Anthony Richardson by having Daniel Jones playing. Like, he doesn't, like, he can run, but I think Anthony Richardson's a better runner. and he can't really throw. His neck's kind of messed up.
I don't know. What a bad situation for the Colts, regardless. Because if Daniel Jones wins the starting job, that's probably worst case scenario. And if that happens, that means that Anthony Richardson is still not progressing in any way, shape, or form, and that is also a big issue as well. We
Yeah.
obviously went over all of the quarterbacks like a week ago, so if you guys are Colts fans, take that video didn't do too well. Take the time, click the link in the description of us like breaking down why Chris Ballard even has a job with the Indianapolis Colts at this point, because they have had maybe the worst QB carousel of all time over the last like decade since Andrew Luck's retired.
Yeah, this is one of like the more interesting teams in my point of view because of how much I loved Anthony Richardson coming out. And I just feel like they don't get talked about a ton, and I really am curious to hear like what Colts fans think. Like, are you guys fed up because Anthony Richardson has a completion percentage of 32 in his
Fair.
career? Do you want to hang on because you see the throws that he makes like 75 yards down the field and it doesn't even look like he's trying, and he can literally run over anybody on defense? But then you also have the throws that are like wide open to AD Mitchell down the sidelines, like 20 yards away, and he throws at 35. Like, I get that part's frustrating, but like, what do Colts fans want? And I don't know a lot of Colts. I know one Colts fan, and I don't really talk to him. So I don't know what the Colts fan base is like hoping for. I honestly feel like anytime Daniel Jones is brought into the building, you're kind of like, I hope the other guy wins.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's happy with that. I think that's a safe assumption to be had. Is like you can't be overly happy with Daniel Jones as a starter. The next thing that I have listed here is just Shane Steichen. Me and you have had multiple conversations where we just are at the point now where he just might not be like that great of a head coach. He might be great at being an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
This is a backfire to your argument of offensive gurus, but he did a good job in Philly, obviously, led them to a very dominant season where Jalen Hurts had his best performance as a passer in his entire career when they were a pass first offense more than a run first offense as they are now. And it seemed like he really got the best out of them. And since he's been in Indianapolis, he hasn't done awful, but there has been little things along the way that make you question where he's at as a head coach. Like one was throwing it to the third down running back who caught like one pass the entire season with the season on the line instead of like throwing it to Jonathan Taylor. I think that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And just like narrowly missing the playoffs each season. Where are you at with Steichen?
Yeah, I'm still kind of at that same spot too. I will say that I think he can like draw up a very good offense. Like besides that, I don't know what he was thinking in that one play a couple of years back when they missed the playoffs. Like maybe just trying to get too cute with it.
Yeah.
But from watching what I've seen in Colts games, like there are guys that are getting open. I think Shane Steichen's issue with the offense is not being able to like develop a quarterback. And he has a year right now to prove us wrong. If Anthony Richardson can kind of come out here and look even remotely better than like that's all that I think Colts fans, and that's all that I would be looking for at this point, because we still know that Anthony Richardson hasn't played a ton of football beyond high school
at all,
right? Like
at all since high school.
Yeah,
like it's just he hasn't played much football.
So I think you have to have slower expectations, lowered expectations with a guy like that. And I think you got to have the ability to develop a quarterback and not just put together an offensive game plan, which I think he can. I just don't think he's done a great job at developing Anthony Richardson up to this point. Because there was times where there's guys open left and right in that offense that we've seen, and Anthony Richardson's just blatantly missing them. And maybe a lot of it goes back on Anthony Richardson, but I still hold the coach accountable as far as developing a young, talented quarterback.
I completely agree with you. I think that's rough, but on a like from the quarterback perspective, but from an offensive skill player perspective, I think that they're at like a decent place with where they're at in the roster, like with who they have to get the ball to. They have
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, they have Josh Downs, and they have Michael Pittman Jr. I don't think that that's like a terrible core to have.
AD Mitchell too.
AD Mitchell, who is shaky, had a shaky rookie year, but I mean, nobody got him the ball. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe he can be decent or something like along those lines, but I don't think that this team is awful. And they have Quentin Nelson, obviously, who's a great offensive lineman. But if the consistent, the constant in this situation is like the quarterback play has been mid to even below average, and they are missing the playoffs by like 1 or 2 games. So like, is it fair for us to sit here and criticize like a Steichen or whoever, or is he doing like best with what's given to him?
I mean, we criticize Kevin Stefanski, and he's made it to playoff games and won playoff games with a similar quarterback situation, I would say.
Fair. Very fair.
I'm trying to think of some other quarterback situations that off the top of my head that just like haven't been great. That's the first one that comes to mind. Like, I think we give Mike McDaniel a pretty similar amount of criticism that he can draw up offensive plays, but can't take that next step and getting his team to the playoff. I think we're fair for the criticism for Shane Steichen for not being able to get it done, even with some of the shaky quarterback play that they've had.
Do you believe that he is under the gun? Do you think he's on the hot seat this season? Do you think that no matter how the quarterback position plays out, and do you think that if they win 8 or 9 games or whatever it may be, however the season might play out, do you think that he needs to make it to the playoffs to be able to save his job?
Is he going into year 4 with the Colts?
Year 3, I believe.
Year 3. I don't think his seat is necessarily hot, but I think we might have. I think we've turned on the stove, and are kind of getting there. So I would say the stove is on, but not hot.
Okay. Some roster losses that the Colts did go under: lost their center Ryan Kelly, lost their guard Will Fries. On a positive note, they hired Lou Anarumo, who I think everybody thinks that his job in Cincinnati was very hard on him. I think that they didn't make it any easy or for him to do his job based on the talent that they were bringing in on a year-to-year basis through their draft prospects and then letting talent walk out of the door. Even thinking back though, when I was like thinking because I have like almost like that run that the Bengals went on in the playoffs when their defense really stepped up throughout the majority of the season. That was a middle of the road defense. And over the last few years, Lou Anarumo has.
We lost him.
Hello?
You cut out.
What
you cut out after over the last few years.
There's a massive storm going on right now. So if I lose power, I'm sorry. Over the last few years, he has put out low end defenses for the Cincinnati Bengals. So in his best season ever, it was middle of the road, and then it started to waver off more and more. I thought I liked Lou, but that worries me a little bit. And I don't know if I'm overthinking that or not, but I had like a weird remembrance in my brain where it was like Lou Anarumo is great, and they're screwing him over with the talent that they have on the defense. But even when they did have talent on that defense in Cincinnati, it was still middle of the pack D. So how do you feel about the hire of Lou Anarumo for the defensive coordinator spot?
I would lean towards a more positive feeling about it.
Okay.
I think I sit similar with you as far as like he didn't really have a ton to work with post Super Bowl run. But I think it's fair to sit here and wonder, like, how great of a defensive coordinator is this guy? Like, if you're that great of a defensive coordinator, you wouldn't be putting out some of the worst defenses in the NFL these last few years, regardless of how bad the talent is on your team. But truly, there could just be a point where you have absolutely nothing on the defensive side of the ball, and you're just like fighting with scraps at that point. So I still lean towards him being a good DC, but I think this is probably a relatively big year as far as like my opinion on him, as far as how good is he.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, if you're that good of a defensive coordinator and you're one of the top guys in the NFL, and post Super Bowl run, you have not done a great job of coaching a defense, that begins to raise some red flags, in my opinion.
Definitely. Colts were active in free agency, to say the least. Obviously, we just talked about it. They signed Daniel Jones, Tre'Davious Ward, who I think is a very good player from the 49ers. Cam Bynum, the safety. Corey Baltimore, the corner, never heard of him before. Neville Gallimore, the D tackle, never heard of him either. And then Khalil Herbert, the running back, who everybody seems to really love the idea of Khalil Herbert. And I have never seen it materialize like on paper, but as a complimentary piece to Jonathan Taylor, I don't hate it, but every complimentary piece that they have brought in for Jonathan Taylor in the Jonathan Taylor era has gotten hurt and sucked. So it's like, can they get lucky and just get a decent play out of Khalil Herbert? Because I remember when they traded for Naheem Hines and he like immediately tore his ACL.
And then he got traded to the Bills or picked up by the Bills, and he returned like 2 kickoffs for touchdowns and then got hurt again.
You're thinking of backwards.
Oh, he went from the Bills to the Colts.
Yes.
Okay.
You're thinking of it backwards.
Yes. Okay.
Do you like any of the moves that they made in free agency?
I like the Tre'Davious Ward one. I think he's a very good player. You named a whole bunch of guys that were probably just going to end up being like depth pieces aside from Cam Bynum. Other than that, I don't really know if any of these other guys are starters or not.
Yeah, me either.
So I can't really give you that well of an insight. Like the Khalil Herbert is a good compliment on paper, but like you said already, it feels like everybody likes it way more than it actually is.
We think, but I like that they are somewhat aggressive and doing their thing, obviously, and because I think that team at some point in time, like, I don't know if I love every move that they make in the front office, but they are consistent, and it seems like they at least try to put players on the field for this team, even though I don't always love it.
Right. I agree with you.
Now the draft. The Indianapolis Colts sit at 14. There are a ton of good players on the board, allegedly. We don't really know. It's probably a 50-50 hit at this point.
Yeah.
Something that always kind of runs into my head is Chris Ballard's kind of obsessed with these like athletic freaks, like Leate Latu, A.D. Mitchell, Anthony Richardson, all these guys who are big, strong, fast. And I feel like his head works in that way. So I'm going to go first to the guy who I think that they're going to take in the draft. Might be a little bit of out of left field, but I think that they take the safety from South Carolina, Nick Amanu-Wari, 6'3", 225, 32.5 arm length, 9-inch hands. He ran a 4.3 40-yard. He's got a 43-inch vert, and he had a 11'6" broad jump. He had one of the best combines, like on paper, that to come across the combine. And I think that Chris Ballard falls in love with these athletic freaks. I think that on the defensive side of the ball is a spot where they need enhancements. I don't think the Leatu pick was a hit at all. So I also could see them going edge if needed. But I think that they probably are going to stay on the defensive side of the football, unless if you think otherwise.
I think you made a good point about like the defensive freak type player. Well, just freak type athlete in general. I will say that I think this is earlier than expected, but based off of that, James Pierce fits that mold extremely well as like for the freak athlete type player.
Yeah.
6'5", 245, 4'47", 40, 156, 10-yard split. Broad jump was 10'3".
I love it.
And he was pretty productive in college, and that was a guy that was a top 5 pick coming into this last season.
Yeah.
So
I
could
like
be early. There probably will be better edge players on the board, but sticking on trend with the athletic freak show that Chris Ballard prefers, I think he also fits that mold.
I love that. I think that I love that idea, because then that means that Michael Williams will keep falling down the board and potentially falling into a team where I would like to see him more fit, because to be honest with you, I hate the Colts. I don't know why.
They're so weird.
It's a team that I just don't like. I don't like watching them. They're pretty annoying, and I'm tired. I think it's fantasy. I think fantasy plays a role into this. Like when you have one of their receivers, like if you drafted Michael Pittman Jr. last year, you were upset. If you had Josh Downs, you were upset one week and really happy the next.
Anytime that Flacco was playing.
Yeah, such up and downs with this team. It's so hard to like them. And I think that until they figure out whatever is going on at this quarterback position for them, I don't think it matters what they do in the draft. I don't think it matters how well these good young players play for them at running back and wide receiver. I think that they are in the purgatory mindset of barely missing the playoffs every single year, because I just don't think that they have that quarterback talent to get them over the hump.
Yeah, they have a lot of work to do with Anthony Richardson, and if he doesn't come out and take even a baby step in the right direction, they're looking at Daniel Jones being the starting quarterback, and that's never really a spot you want to be.
It's grim. That's how
it is grim.
Do you have anything else you want to add about the Indianapolis Colts?
I will say one thing nice about them, and they do have that guy that makes the song every week.
This is our Colts.
Yes.
This is our team.
We bleed blue.
I mean, shout out that guy. So
yeah, he turned up last year.
100%. He was the bright spot of the Indianapolis Colts season. All right.
He really was.
Next team we have on the docket here is the Atlanta Falcons, 8-9, 7th straight year of no playoffs. Two things, and then I'll let you do what you got to do. I am absolutely tired of every single year the sports books, the podcasts, everybody saying that the Indianapolis Colts are the favorites to win this division when they haven't made the playoffs in 7 straight years. This team should be, odds-wise, in my personal opinion, probably a little bit closer to the Carolina Panthers than at the top of the board. That's just what I think. I think that they're closer to the Panthers than they are the Buccaneers. The next thing, the quarterback situation. Very big all-time fumble by the GM. 8th pick spent on Michael Penix after paying Kirk Cousins 4-year, $180 million. Now, the Falcons have a strong stance that they're not getting rid of Kirk Cousins, and they're going to keep him for the time being. But my question for you is, for what? In 2025, the cap hit would be $40 million. 2026, 57.5. 2027, 57.5. If they get out after this year in 2026, when he can get out, they will have a $45 million dead cap hit. So why not now? When you have Penix, you decided to bench Kirk Cousins. Why would you have a strong stance to keep Kirk Cousins? Why not even try? If you're just going to cut him anyway after the season, take on that $45 million dead cap hit, why not even take a 7th round pick for him or try to get something for him at this point. I don't understand what Terry's doing, the GM. I think he's terrible at his job. And I think where do you stand on all of this, the quarterback situation in Atlanta?
I think they're doing the right thing holding on to him for right now, because I think their thought, and I would think this as well, is you trade him right now and you get a 7th round pick. But say you trade him right before the deadline to a team that has had a pretty good season to start, and their quarterback goes down. They don't really love who they have at backup. They'll take a flyer on Kirk Cousins.
What if that doesn't happen?
Well, yeah, that's a possibility too. But I think that's their reasoning for keeping him, is they think that somebody will get desperate and somebody could get hurt throughout the season. A team that's been playing well and needs a quarterback that doesn't love their backup. If the phone rings in Atlanta, hey, what do you want for Kirk Cousins? That 7th round pick looks like maybe a 4th round pick now to a team that is desperate.
But what happens if that none of that happens?
Then they're screwed.
Nobody calls for Kirk Cousins.
Then they're screwed.
Then they're stuck holding the bag, looking like an idiot. So that's why
you're right. But quarterbacks do get hurt every year.
I'm just saying, like, right now, why not just be like, well, screw it. Like, Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. Like, do you guys take Kirk Cousins? Brown. The Browns. You guys need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Take Kirk Cousins. Shit. Call the Colts. The Colts are the worst organization ever. Call the Colts. Call Chris Ballard on the phone. Hey, we have Kirk Cousins.
He's not an athletic freak, though.
It doesn't matter. He loves old whitewashed quarterbacks.
He does.
Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz, the whole nine.
Matt Ryan.
I think that at some point, like, does it make sense for the Falcons to have a $40 million backup quarterback?
As of today, no. But I think they're likely banking on somebody down the road getting injured and a team reaching out to them. And Kirk Cousins looks a whole lot better than whatever option they currently had. Otherwise, if none of that happens, then absolutely they're screwed.
I think no matter what, they tanked his stock. I don't think that they're going to get that big of a return on him regardless.
Well, yeah, he looked horrible.
I think now or the season, I think it's a 5th or a 6th round pick that gets the deal done. I do. No matter what stake is on the line. Like, whether you're a team that your quarterback gets hurt halfway through the season or right now, I think it's a 5th or 6th round pick that gets this over the line. I don't think he fetches a 4th, because you're going to be sitting there looking at somebody asking them to take on a very large contract for a washed up white quarterback. I don't know why I called him white.
Well, he's not white.
I don't know why I just threw that in, that he was a white guy, but whatever. Go ahead.
No, I mean, yeah, I think that if none of this plays out how I've been saying, they're sitting in a very bad situation, paying an awful lot of money to a guy that is sitting on the bench. And that's never a good sign. But with the way that history goes, quarterbacks in the NFL always end up getting hurt, and somebody might come calling, and I think they're just banking on that. And that's likely what you do when you're not a great GM, is you bank on an injury, but it could play out in their favor. Who knows? But that's why I think they're holding on to him, because I think that they think somebody's going to get hurt and somebody's going to offer more than what he would go for right now.
They're dumb.
Because what's his real value right now?
A 5th or a 6th round pick. I think that's what he's worth.
I think his real value right now is like $3.
Well, no, like, what do you think he fetches in the trade?
I think he legitimately gets like a 7th round pick right now, and
I think
it.
I think a quarterback needy team, like, you can get a 5th probably. Why not?
But at the same time, if you're the Steelers or you're one of these teams, like, is Kirk? I'm also talking myself out of this now. Is Kirk Cousins better than Mason Rudolph right now?
Probably not. No, that's what I'm saying.
And that was what I said, was like, I'm talking myself out of it right now.
They plummeted Kirk Cousins stock. The last
he
version of
looked
Kirk
really
Cousins
bad.
that we see looked bad, and they benched him
Yeah.
for a rookie who. That's
True.
another question I have for you is how good is Penix? I don't think Penix is very good. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm not really sold on him either. We've only seen 4 games.
I hate
3.
to be this guy.
But,
Like,
like
how many successful left-handed quarterbacks are there in the NFL? History.
NFL history, 1.
Who?
Steve Young, wasn't he lefty?
Maybe. Did he win a lot of games or something? Did he win a Super Bowl?
He's pretty good.
Hold on. Wait, hold on. Let's ask this. Hold on. Let me pull up ChatGPT here. Let's do this with ChatGPT real quick as an exercise. How many left-handed quarterbacks have won a Super Bowl?
Michael Vick was pretty good. He never won a Super Bowl, but he was
playoff
good.
game. He won one playoff game his entire career.
I still think that he is a better quarterback than Kirk.
No, you think of him as in your mind, you are thinking of him as better than what he was because he was cool on video games.
No doubt, but you asked me how many good lefty quarterbacks there were. There's not really many lefty quarterbacks to pick from.
Timeout. There are 2 in NFL history who are left-handed quarterbacks. 1, Steve Young.
Yes.
In 1994. The next, Kenny Stabler in 1976.
This to win a Super Bowl.
We are
Was that to win a Super Bowl?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, but also there's not many lefties in the NFL left-handed quarterbacks to begin with. But I think Mike Vick was a good
1994, we weren't even born yet. And that was the last time a left-handed quarterback won a Super Bowl. So yeah. It's a dumb argument. I get it. But like, if we're just going off history, Michael Penix is not the guy to get you over the hump.
The deck is stacked against him.
Something to think about.
The current lefty in the NFL isn't even great.
Who's that?
Tua?
He stinks.
That's what I just said.
I know, but I'm just harping on the point that he stinks. Like, he's bad. He's awful. He is, watch the Dolphins. That's coming out tomorrow. Watch the Dolphins video tomorrow. Okay. One bright side that we can give to this football team, I will say, is they do have 2. Kyle Pitts is a garbage can, so I'm not putting him in their special young talent anymore. He stinks. They have Bijan Robinson, who I think was a can't miss prospect coming out. And I think that he is a severely underrated running back right now in the NFL because Jahmyr Gibbs is a little bit more shifty and people like Jahmyr Gibbs a lot.
And the Lions won football games.
Yeah, and the Lions won football games, but Bijan Robinson is as advertised and he's the real deal.
They also need to figure out the way to just give him the ball because Tyler Algier would just go half the game, like taking half the plays.
He gets way too much burn, honestly.
Which is crazy.
And the next player who I think took a very meaningful step last season was Drake London. I think both of those guys are legit. I think they're legit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like both of those guys a lot. I think it's fair to be fully out on Kyle Pitts. We've seen him in the NFL for 4 years, and it's just been this is the year, this is the year, this is the year, and it has not been the year. He's
trash.
He was the second coming of Darren Waller apparently at tight end, and
he stinks.
Even Darren Waller wasn't great, but Darren Waller was a wide receiver playing tight end, basically, is what people thought Kyle Pitts would be.
He was on crack.
He was. But no, I agree with you. I think those 2 guys are very, very important pieces of this offense. They should give Bijan Robinson the football more. Sneaky decent season was Darnell Mooney at their wide receiver too. I will say that.
He blew up at the beginning of the season and then kind of tailed off at the end. But yeah, he did play very well. And I liked him in Chicago. He had that 1,000-yard season in Chicago. I was like, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah, so I like him as a wide receiver too for this team. It's just what are you going to get from Penix at this point?
Yeah. So this offseason, they haven't really done anything major. They just pretty much got Lenny Floyd, who at this point in his career,
they added some like older kind of guys like towards the back end of their career is what it felt like.
Yeah.
They signed, maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. No, that was the last team. Sorry, that was the Colts. But yeah, I have the list here. None of these are like insane. They did re-sign, or they did extend Jake Matthews to a 2-year, $45 million extension. Signed 1-year deal, re-signed like Leonard Floyd, Contavious Street, Morgan Fox, Divine Diablo, kind of a fire name. Mike Hughes, Jordan Fuller, and Liam McCullough. Liam McCullough signed a 4-year extension, but he's literally the long snapper. So
why did I literally see none of those deals? So I don't know. I was going through that, missed those. So hey, that one's on me, boss.
It's all right. That's what we're here for. Also, how many different people need to report a deal? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people.
This was my argument. This was my argument the one day to Brady when Brady was trying to say that like breaking news was a hard job. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah. So all of these are directly off of NFL.com, and it's an updated tracker with who each team is signing up to date. And this says Mike Fox signed a 2-year deal worth more than $8.5 million worth incentives. Mike Garofalo, Tim Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, and Peter Schrager all reported the deal.
That I think it's time.
That's crazy.
I do. I'm being serious. I think it's time. Whatever that like job is, like whatever that means and what it is, it's time to go. It makes
like,
no sense.
We can sit here and say that like Schefter and Rappaport are probably like the two guys for the NFL, but like everybody else, it almost just feels like is repurposing that information.
What would make the job cool is if there were tea leaves for weeks or something leading up to it, and Schrager or somebody had a story that was like on the cutting edge. It's never that. It's when it's announced is when they can talk about things. So what's the point of having that job?
Yeah. We don't need 4 people repeating the same exact information.
I'm sorry, I hate that job, but well, that's maybe for another day. So now for the NFL draft. Sorry, they're at pick 15. I think really their biggest weaknesses right now are the defense, and I think that it's probably the secondary and edge rushers. From the 2021-2022 season, they had 37 sacks, lowest in the NFL. I think adding Raheem Morris, a defensive-minded head coach, they started off hot this year. They had 10 sacks like in the first 11 games, looked real decent. But I think a lot of the problems that stem in the secondary also stems from them not getting enough pressure on the quarterback, because I look at like a Jesse Bates and I look at an AJ Terrell, and I think that those are two guys in a secondary who are pretty decent. And I think that they can hold their own, and they're probably the top at their position right now. Then I would say at 15, they would get an edge rusher. And we have a whole list of edge rushers at this point. We have Shamar Stewart. We have James Pierce Jr. We have Nick Scrontron. I don't know how to say his last name. And then we have Michael Williams, who is technically still on the board based off of the conversations that we had so far. So I'm just
going to go Mike Green on the list too.
Mike Green, of course, my guy. I think that they probably will go keep the guy in Georgia and get Michael Williams and get a good edge rusher out of Georgia. I mean, you can never go wrong with a Georgia defender, it feels like.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where we were at with who we thought everybody was going to go with. And for that reason, I didn't have Michael, but I did have Mike Green on here as an edge. And then the other guy I had to keep an eye out on was, I know that you said this the other day, that Will Johnson didn't have a great physical, and I could see Will Johnson going to Atlanta. If
Yeah,
they want to take
there's been I don't know if it's been like reported or not or anything, but he has like soft bones or like low bone density, which means that he has a propensity
soft.
for like soft tissue injuries. So
Okay.
something to keep an eye out for. I mean, when a team hears that, my first instinct when hearing that is I think that he starts to fall down boards. I think Will
Correct.
Johnson, after hearing some of that stuff, that he will fall down boards. My question is, and was to the person who told me the information was, is it too late for him to start drinking milk? And
Yeah.
his response was, yes, it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah.
See, consuming milk feels like a thing that's never too late.
His bones are apparently fucked. So that's hey, don't shoot the
bones.
Don't shoot the messenger. But that's what I'm hearing on my end.
Well, that sucks because that's a guy that could be a top 10 pick had he didn't have paper mache bones. And
you would think. You would think.
Well, I could see somebody taking a shot on him. But I do think 100%. That the Falcons go defense here, and I think edge is likely the pick. It's just whoever the best edge rusher is on the board at this point. I think that's who they go with. You laid it out pretty well. Didn't really generate a ton of pressure last year. I feel like their defensive line's like kind of old in the middle at least. But either way, you got to be able to generate pressure. You got to be able to get sacks. It just helps every other level of your defense. And AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates are like too good of a secondary player to be disrespected. So I think they definitely need to ramp up the pass rush here in Atlanta.
100%. Yeah, let's do you have anything else you want to add about the Atlanta Falcons, or are you good to go on that?
No, I'll save the rest of my thoughts for when we do like the season preview for them.
Completely fair. I think that's probably a good idea as well. Okay, so let's next team. I mean, this team has done numbers for us over the years. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, they have.
And that is the Arizona Cardinals, 8-9. I think probably looking back at this season for the Arizona Cardinals, I think that it's met by two things: disappointment and frustration. Because there was a point in time where there was a real conversation this team was firmly in the playoff picture and could have potentially won the division. But I want to meet that by saying the Arizona Cardinals played well above expectation last season. And I feel like that got lost in translation with how well they were playing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that this was a team that you and I were both pretty high on. We thought that they were going to be a playoff team. So them not making it kind of hurts, but I think we might have just been a year behind. I think this will probably be the year that they take that step and make the playoffs. I think it's good that we got a full year of Kyler Murray. I don't know off the top of my head exactly what Marvin Harrison Jr.'s season looked like, but I know that there were moments where I would look through and just be like, dang, I want more from him, but that's not really up to him. I feel like he at first felt like he got a lot of targets. I don't really know exactly what the number looked like as the season progressed, but Trey McBride was like pretty clearly the number one target here in Arizona. And
you were saying that about Marv, right?
Yeah. What did I say?
No, I was just making sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wanted more from Marv this season, but like again, that's not like fully.
I think
the offense wasn't looking.
I'm defending Marvin Harrison Jr. like to a T on this one. He had 62 receptions for 885 yards and 8 touchdowns. His two guys who I would put him against are Malik Neighbors and BTJ. And Neighbors had 109 receptions, and Brian Thomas Jr. had 87 receptions. And I think Neighbors finished the season with like 150 plus targets. I know that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so there's two things. I'm not even going to compare him to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas because, like you were about to rattle off, he got less targets probably than both of those guys. I think I was kind of let down because he was projected as the most surefire lock. Everybody was putting him on this absurd pedestal, and rightfully so. He was phenomenal at Ohio State, and it can take different amounts of time when you get to the NFL with different receivers. But the amount of talk about him coming out of college, I expected a little bit more. Like I at least expected him to have 1,000 yards.
What more do you want? I think like the perceived like rookie season at this point is so skewed.
It is.
That
I completely agree. I'm guilty.
That like Marvin Harrison had exactly what you wanted to have from a team, from a wide receiver that you took in the first round. I think that the biggest issue with what happened with Marvin Harrison Jr. this season was the way that Drew Petzing decided to get him targets. Where if you watched Arizona Cardinals games, which I've spent a lot of time watching Arizona Cardinals games, is probably 50% of the time when Marvin Harrison Jr. was to get a target, it was in tight one-on-one coverage where they were expecting him to go and win the ball instead of, and that was not in the flow of a football game. Right. That was like his random every third pass was when he got a target was an extremely high difficulty of catch, which I thought wasn't the best way to use Marvin the entire year. So I think that is a major reason of why people weren't like wowed and jumped off the screen when Marv like was playing the entire season. I think he had moments, but I think it was how they were trying to get him the ball within the flow of a football game never flowed. It was always wonky, and it was always, hey, win this last second, put your hands out and win a catch in tight one-on-one coverage and be a guy. And I think that he can do that. I think he'll continue to grow into that, but at some point you need to look at him and get him some easy targets, just like how every other top wide receiver in the NFL gets. I mean, you look at Marv run a slant route when they gave it to him this season. Marv would be the best slant runner in the entire league if they allowed him to do it. So I think whatever, but I'm saying that it's time that Osama bin Petzing gets a little bit more hate for how he coached this team this season. And I think that led to a lot of problems with the inconsistent quarterback play that you saw from Kyler. And they had an extremely low pass rate, I think second last in the NFL. And I know that Kyler has had inconsistent quarterback play his entire career, so it kind of fits the mold of what was going on. And I don't think Kyler is a guy that you should look at and be like, throw on the Superman cape and go win us games. But the way that the Arizona Cardinals play in a run-heavy offense, I think that if the pass game is designed correctly with the pieces that they have, I think that this offense could be. If this was a top 10 offensive DVOA the entire season. I think that we're talking, if this team takes the next step in the passing game, which I think that they will this upcoming season, I think this is a top 5 offense the entire season across the board in rushing and passing. I think this team has the potential to be the real deal.
I will also say that I agree with you that I am slightly biased, like skewed, because I'm looking here at like the rookie receiving yards records, and like the top of out of the top 10 guys for rookie receivers. Well, I mean, I can go to the top 15 guys. It's all been like Ladd McConkey's in there, Brock Bowers, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua. Those are all guys that have been in the NFL for 3 years max. Yeah. And like, those are all recent. So in my head, I'm like, oh, this guy, generational wide receiver coming out, didn't even he was 300 yards short of this. But I do agree with you at the coaching standpoint of this, because I saw it too. They really made it difficult for Marv on offense to generate easy targets and easy catches. which I will say that some of these other guys didn't necessarily have that same issue. But at the same time, I think that aside from Puka and who's Justin Jefferson's rookie year quarterback? Never mind. These guys all had like decently like I think Kyler Murray's right up there with like the other list of these guys as far as like decent quarterback play. Like Puka had
what was the pass
Stafford.
rate? What was the pass rate of those offenses? Like this offense was
Jamar Chase had 1,400 yards.
This offense was second to last in pass rate the entire season.
That's fair.
They weren't a pass first team. Do you know who's a pretty good player?
Too. But also Ladd McConkey's wide receiver 1 over there. Trey McBride is their number 1 target.
But do you know who also was a pretty good wide receiver? His name was Marvin Harrison. He's a Hall of Famer, actually.
Pretty good, yeah.
His rookie year, he had 64 receptions, 136 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So I think that it's absolutely ridiculous that Marv was 200 yards away from. If Marv had 200 more yards and 200 touchdowns, people would be throating him. So
2 more touchdowns.
So I don't want
200 touchdowns.
My bad. I don't want to. I think that like I'm a little tired of hearing the Marv hate, and I think there's even some people who don't even believe that he could be like that true wide receiver 1, that guy for them. I think Marv goes out this season and proves everybody wrong. I think he's that guy, and I think he's that good.
Oh, I'm not selling any stock on Marvin Harrison.
Sorry,
by any means. I think he's still going to be an extremely phenomenal NFL player. I'm not. What I saw this year didn't make me think that he was going to be any worse in the NFL than what I originally thought. I just expected him to come out the gate a little bit hotter, is all.
Completely understandable. I think that I'm going to move on here. The weaknesses that this team has right now, I think is fair to say, I think is their coaching. I think that the inconsistent philosophy that these guys have on their coaching staff, and I mean Jonathan Gannon when I say this, is very frustrating. And the Arizona Cardinals lost games this season. A very good example is the Minnesota Vikings game when they decided not to go for it on a 4th down to edge the game and finish it off, and they actually ended up coming back and winning. I need a consistent philosophy from Jonathan Gannon from start to finish, and they need to be aggressive to win football games. So instead of playing not to lose, they need to start playing to win. And there's no reason why a team that is this talented running the football should not be able to put away football games. So that is something that I need to see change. And like I said, Osama bin Petzing, you need to step it up when you're calling passing plays because if you are getting guys targets not in the flow of things, it's constantly feels wonky. And I think that is what you are thinking of when you think of a Marvin Harrison Jr. season. I think that's what you're thinking of when Trey McBride doesn't have a receiving touchdown going into the last week of the season and Kyler's trying to force it to him and throwing bad picks. That is flat on the coaching staff, and they need to step it up this season because we're going to get into it a little bit more, but I think that this team could be special. But go ahead and keep talking. Go ahead and add what you need to add.
No, I think we talked about it a lot during the season. Is this was a team that, like, their defense was not like on paper wasn't great, but they played very feisty and were holding teams to like no points in the second half.
Yes,
and I think that's certainly something to build on moving into the next season. But I do agree. I think the coaching aspect of this needs to get better because they lost a couple of games that they shouldn't have lost.
Completely agree. So this offseason, it's been interesting for them, honestly. They grab Josh Sweat. Obviously, him and Gannon have some history together in Philly. I love that move personally. You go and get Dalvin Tomlinson, a big guy to put in the middle of defensive tackle. Honestly, I love that move by them too. And then today they went and grabbed Calais Campbell, another big guy to just throw into the middle of that defense. I think the biggest concern of this football team was this defensive line and rushing the quarterback, etc. Last year, You took Darius Robinson from Missouri. I think he's a really good player. He got banged up in training camp with his calf. Didn't come back the same the entire year. He wasn't healthy. Before the season entering in, there was a lot of buzz that BJ Ojulari out of LSU, edge rusher, was going to have a very big breakout season for them. He tears his ACL in the offseason, and he's going to be healthy this year. So now you're looking at me and you're saying, okay, you got Baron Browning, who they got from Denver, who's going to play edge for them. You have Josh Sweat, who's going to play edge for them. You have BJ Ojulari, who's going to play edge for them. And then you have Darius Robinson to play edge for them. I love the depth that they're building on this defensive line. Then you add a Dalvin Tomlinson, you add a Calais Campbell. This is a lot of depth for a position and big dudes and guys who can actually rush the passer in a spot on their team that, if you look, literally just last season was a complete weak point, and they didn't even have bodies to throw out there damn near. Yeah, I think that this is a big upgrade on the defensive line for them.
Yeah, they brought in a lot of guys that I really like as well. And they have some guys coming back that should provide them with some really good talent along that defensive line. It all just comes down to, can Gannon get these guys all on the same page, and can they stay healthy? Because that was a big issue for them last year.
100%. Do you have anything else that you want to add about the Arizona Cardinals offense, defense, whatever? Listen, real quick, I will address the Kyler Murray stuff. Like, I'm a big Kyler Murray fan. I understand the frustrations that you get when you have Kyler Murray at quarterback, but that comes with every quarterback in the entire NFL. I think knowing the limitations, I think understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your quarterback from a play calling perspective is important. Like, I just don't like the one play that sticks out in mind is like Kyler was at the 50-yard line and pointed to the end zone and ran in a 50-yard touchdown. There is maybe one other guy in the NFL that can do that, and that's Lamar Jackson. Like, I think that he is extremely talented, and I think that, like, if put in the right situation, I think that he can have one of those top 10 quarterback seasons that he seems to be able to get out to in the beginning of the year, but once it reaches a certain point of the season, he's not able to really complete it.
Yeah, it's been definitely frustrating for people that have Kyler Murray's back, but I think that we've seen the flashes, and I think that he can still play football, like, is still a high-level quarterback. Like, I wouldn't be necessarily worried about Kyler Murray as much as I would be worried about offensive coordinator, play call, that combination of pieces on the offensive side of the ball. Because I think they have good players. Like, I like Marvin Harrison. I think Trey McBride's probably the best tight end in the NFL when it comes to, honestly, he might just be the best tight end in the NFL at this point. And then James Conner had a really great season last year, and I like him too. Like, I think they have good players along the offense, and they have good weapons. It's just a matter of making things easier for Kyler, making things easier for Marvin Harrison Jr. Like,
a super underrated
should be your goal as an offensive coordinator.
I think super underrated too. I think their entire wide receiving core is talented. Like, Michael Wilson's pretty good. Zay Jones, I don't know if people forgot about him, but like Zay Jones has some of the sure hands in the NFL. And same with, you brought up Trey McBride. Trey McBride's one of the best in his position, if not the best. So I think that across the board that this team's talented. So yeah, I'm excited for this upcoming season for them. As for the draft goes, they're sitting currently at the 16th pick in the NFL draft. Is there anybody that do you think that there is a side of the ball that they're going to lean towards taking? And do you have a few players in mind, or a player?
I was leaning. They did just take Trey Benson last year. I was kind of thinking like James Conner was getting a little older, but I do think I know they just drafted Trey Benson last year. I like
in
the
the second.
wideouts I like the wideouts they have. I think they did a great job of making that defensive line a lot better. The linebacker Jihad Campbell would be a name that kind of comes to mind.
And he goes to school where?
I didn't write down where he went to school. I think he went to Alabama.
Okay.
I think he's an Alabama linebacker.
Yep.
It's getting to the point where I'm like confusing Bama, A&M, Georgia. Like they're all kind of blending together in my head.
Jalen Walker out of Georgia. So he's an edge rusher.
No, Jihad Campbell, linebacker.
Jihad Campbell. You know what? This guy's not on my big board in the 32. So give me your reasoning why you like this guy so much.
I think he just flies around, and I feel like Alabama linebackers are normally a safe bet. 6'3", 244-pound linebacker. I think he just flies around, makes plays. And I think that's a guy that you can put in the middle of your defense and on your second level and will be pretty stout for you.
I will think that their coverage unit is weak. I don't hate Buda Baker, but I think that his coverage skills are weak. I think like Garrett Williams, Max Melton, like I don't hate them fully, like Starling Thompson. I don't hate them fully, but I think that if I am the Cardinals right now, I need to get, if there is a dude on the board at corner that you love, I think this might be an opportunity to go and grab somebody.
That's fair. And that leads back to the Will Johnson conversation that we had in regards to whoever the last team was that we talked about, right? Like the Falcons. Yeah. He's been falling, and if he ends up falling to the Cardinals, then perfect for them.
Yeah, there's a few corners here that I like. I mean, obviously, if Derek Harmon, the D lineman from Oregon, is still sitting here,
I had him too.
I think adding another big guy on the defensive line, add him as another complimentary piece to the Dalvin Tomlinson, and then obviously when Dalvin's done, like you have a bona fide dude. I mean, you can never go wrong with that, and he's going to play a ton of snaps regardless.
Yeah.
Corner wise, I think Jahdae Barron, the Texas corner,
Jahdae Barron,
who's been like flying up boards. This is obviously a spot that he could go. The Will Johnson situation as well. I think he could be good. And then I think Benjamin Morrison, the corner out of Notre Dame, is going to go higher than people think.
The only reason I haven't brought up Jahdae Barron yet is because from what I read, he was a lot better at zone, and I don't know like what type of defense all of these teams are playing. And that seemed to be like a big reason as to why people were unsure about, at least when I was initially reading about him. It sounds like things have changed since, but that was like the main reason that I haven't brought him up yet, is because I just don't know how good he is at man coverage.
Yeah, I have no clue, but it seems like he's flying up draft boards like every week.
Well, that's good.
Do you have anything else that you want to add on the Arizona Cardinals? Sorry to get so fired up, but I think that this team is incredibly disrespected. And players are disrespected. Like I said, the Marv situation. So I had to stick up for my guys.
No, I totally get it. You got to do what you got to do. But no, I'm good. I don't have anything left on the Cardinals that we won't cover once we get to the season preview.
Perfect. The last one that we have on the board today are the Bengals.
Yep.
Cincinnati Bengals. We just did a video on them last week. So again, that video will be in the description below, where we kind of broke down a lot in that, which we probably just should have put that out as the Cincinnati Bengals video, but it is what it is. We can add in a few things here and make it a little bit more interesting. Might just be a little bit of a shorter one, but go ahead and check that out, because obviously the Bengals have made a ton of moves this offseason, including tying down their two very, very great wide receivers for the next few years. So shout out to them. But last season, the Bengals went 9-8, missed the playoffs. They started out 0-3. the big thing that I want to harp on before we get into the draft is their defensive challenges. 19th in rush defense, 22nd in pass defense, 25th in points allowed. This team needs to figure something out on the defensive side of the football. And I believe that they got a deal done with Trey Hendrickson, correct? That's something that we were talking about in the last video. So
I have not seen anything yet on the Trey Hendrickson contract negotiations. I think they're at like a standstill is kind of what it seems like, because I haven't heard anything about them progressing or things getting worse. And I guess if you're at a standstill, it means it's getting worse.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like it wasn't done.
Correct.
And those comments from Katie Blackburn were definitely disappointing, and communication has been poor over the last couple months. It's been a little bit frustrating. So it looks like they leaked out something that wasn't. Yeah, you're completely right. I don't know why I thought that Kurt Benekirk just said Trey Hendrickson being lied to by the Bengals organization. Tough look for the organization that's historically had money issues. Very interesting.
Has any Super Bowl run held more weight than the Bengals Super Bowl run a few years ago?
It shouldn't. It really it's time, dude.
But it feels like it kind of is, right?
Yeah, it's time.
I mean, they're not. Trey Hendrickson leaves, and they're going to have just no shot on defense.
They're going to be
Al Golden, poor guy, man. He's just getting thrown into a god awful defensive situation.
Literally, with getting held together by sticks and bubble gum, and it's just. You're right. I mean, this team isn't good. I think the head coach, who, of course, as I'm talking about him, I can't remember his name for the life of me. Like I'm like
Zach Taylor.
It's like I have CT or something. And I think this is the season where if he can't get this figured out to start the season, I think no matter what, if they lose first round of playoffs or whatever, I think to save his job this upcoming season, he's going to have to actually like make a run in the playoffs.
I think so too, because we basically just said, that Super Bowl run that he had probably is the only thing that's keeping him afloat as far as the head coach goes, because it's been pretty sad since then.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's been hurt every year, and they have just been underperforming since then. They had such high expectations after making that Super Bowl. Like, oh yeah, we got Joe Burrow to look forward to. We got Jamar Chase to look forward to. They get T. Higgins, and like, it just hasn't gone as planned.
It hasn't. And I think that we touched on it like in the last video, like I said, like maybe we can like link this in or whatever, but this team every year gets worse and worse across the board. Even this year, their offensive line continues to get worse. Then they go and like release Alex Kappa because they don't have enough money. So like it's just like they're pulling players, decent players from every position every single year to keep together this intact core. But they are going to have like what year was this? Did the Saints draft like Alvin Kamara in the 5th and Michael Thomas in the 2nd? Like, and nail all these like starters. Yeah. Like they need to have that type of draft this upcoming season to be able to really solidify themselves to make another deep playoff run, I think. So with that being said,
hold on, I have one other thing that I wanted to mention before you go into that. The T. Higgins deal, I feel like kind of got sneaky under the radar with just how good of a deal the Bengals actually did on that, because I remember seeing it. I am giving them credit, yeah. Okay. They managed to keep one of their better players, but they got pretty creative in this deal. And let me just read you this little snippet. T. Higgins deal, on the other hand, has $30 million in fully guaranteed money. A 20. So wait, I'll probably should start with what his deal is. Where is it? Hold on. Okay. T. Higgins re-signed on a 4-year, $115 million deal earlier this offseason. Higgins had the non-exclusive franchise tag placed on him for the second straight year. Some of the details about this deal. So $30 million fully guaranteed money, $20 million roster bonus he's already collected, and a $10 million roster bonus he's due next March. As a practical matter, he's not guaranteed the $13.8 million he's due this year, but he'll get that plus a $100,000 workout bonus, and if he stays healthy, $2 million in per game roster bonuses, bringing the 2025 total to $35.9 million. But all he's guaranteed is the $10 million beyond that, and the roster bonus is subject to offsets, mitigating the team's risk.
I have no clue what any of that means, but good for them.
But it sounds like a lot of this deal, aside from like 30 million of it, is simply roster, like you're playing. Like his per game roster bonus is $2 million per game.
I mean, yeah, you can't. I think that's a good thing. I have no clue.
For the Bengals, I'm saying.
It sounds like, hey, listen, if everybody's happy on both sides, then that's the best deal.
Correct. Then that's
and it seems like
plus deal.
It seems like that T. Higgins is happy, and if you think that it sounds like they're getting protected if anything bad happens, like injury wise, because he hasn't been able to stay healthy over the last few years, then like shout out to the Bengals for figuring that out.
I think knowing that you're losing $2 million a game gives you a little bit more incentive to fight through that sore ankle or sore forearm or something along those lines, which I'm not blaming T. Higgins for not playing if there were instances where he had to battle through something, because at the time he didn't have guaranteed money, but now you do, and you get $2 million for playing. So that's an even more incentive of a reason to play if you're a guy like T. Higgins and fight through something.
Yeah, 100%. Now that he has a long-term deal, you'd have to think that he's going to fight through some of these like little like soft tissue injuries that he might have been out a little bit more
100%
like, over the last few years.
Yep.
Now to get in the draft, they have the 17th overall pick. I like in my head like played around with the idea of them taking like a Tyler Warren or a running back. Like if a Ashton Genty were to fall, I think that if they do not take a defensive player at number 17, I think that like the franchise might need to be exiled. I think that like this is the most no-brainer defensive pick. And if you were to ask me what they were going to do, if it sounds like Trey Hendrickson's not going to be back, it seems like in a draft filled with edge rushers and defensive linemen, it feels like that they're probably going to go edge rusher, right?
Yeah, I have Shamar Stewart, Mike Green, best defensive player available.
Yeah, the list. The list of defensive ends or edge rushers who are going to be at the root of our entire existence until the draft is over and we see how it plays out. But I'm right there with you. It's got to be one of those guys.
The only position I cannot fault them for taking a younger guy is offensive line. The only position that I will give them a pass on not taking a defensive lineman is if they take an offensive. Crazy scenario. If somehow, I mean, this is probably, if somehow like Will Campbell falls to 17,
yeah, take him.
You got to take him. The only reason I feel like he would is because every other team is like, we think he's going to be a guard and we don't want to draft a guard this high.
Yeah. Dude, they should take Ted McMillan.
And just put up 20,000 offensive yards.
That'd be hilarious.
Oh.
That's all I have really for the Bengals. Like I said, we just did the Bengals, so maybe a little bit of a flaw on our end, but that video will also be linked below. But interesting offseason so far for the Bengals. I think an even more important draft coming up for them. And like I said, if they can nail this draft, I think that there is a real possibility that we can start having those conversations that Bengals fans think that they're in right now, but they don't actually have the reality that they're not in those conversations. So if they can do it, then we will give them the credit for doing it.
Yeah, they need to do something special in this draft class. Otherwise, it's scary for them.
Hey, is that all you got?
Does it for me. I got to go move my car. Go Birds.